There we go. The reason why we're recording these sessions is because eventually we want to have an archive of all of our past events, and you will receive an email about it that says, hey, here are all of our events and from the first one we've had. So hopefully you can go back and use it as a reference, or share it with if you're a mentor and you're mentoring, maybe share it with your mentees, or we'll have many uses for it. Okay, we will give it one more minute. Alumni here. Nice, very nice. And then we can begin.
Can you hear me, Anna?
I can hear you just fine.
Perfect. Awesome. Hello, everyone.
That's our speaker, Sabena, today. I'm so excited to have her. We are so lucky to have her today. Hi, Anna. Hello, Adina. All right, guys, I think we are ready to go. We'll let everyone kind of trickle in from here, but thank you so much for joining, and thank you for being part of the Alumni Network's virtual events. We are well on our way. We've done, I think this is our 7th event at this point, and we're very excited every time one comes around. But I will tell you this, today is a special, more of a special one. We have Sabena Black speaking to us today about a very important topic, trade lines. I'm excited to learn, but Sabena was also one of our alum. She was part of Women of Tomorrow, and we now see it all come back full circle. So if any of you are interested in being one of our virtual speakers, please reach out and let me know, and we can set that up as well. But Sabena studied at Broward College and Florida A&U. She has a bachelor's in business management and in accounting, and she held positions in property management. This is where she learned most of her trade and what she's going to be talking to us about today. So Sabena, without further ado, I just want to give you the floor. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, Anna. I appreciate the introduction, and thank you everyone for joining today. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come and bounce ideas, and for me to be able to share the knowledge and share the wealth. And I'm so excited to share the tools that I've gained exposure to throughout my career. So definitely want to welcome you all. And just a few house rules. If you would like to ask any questions throughout the session, please don't be shy. You can raise your hand and we can take questions. I will also open the forum at the end of the presentation so that we can ask questions and bounce ideas off of everyone that's in the room, because I'm sure everyone has maybe some sort of knowledge to the topic of discussion, and I'm excited to open the forum to take any questions. All right, so let's kick start with some fun. Everyone in the audience today, what would you say is exceptional credit? Give me a number. Type that in the chat box. What's exceptional credit? Would you say 700 is exceptional credit? And think about yourself when you're answering this question. Think about what your score is. What would you say is exceptional credit? Give me a number in the chat box. All right, I see those numbers coming through. 800, 815, 700, okay. 800 plus, 850. 8 plus is exceptional. All right, I love it. I love the interaction. It's great. So what would you say is fair credit? Give me a number. This doesn't have to be your specific credit score, but just hypothetically speaking, what would you say is fair credit? 620, 690, 600 plus, okay. 700, 680, all right. Now, what would you say is below average for credit? Renee said 300. I agree, Renee. 400, okay. 500. All right. you all are in the right ballpark. So let's go over that really quickly. So I would say 800, and not only I would say, statistics say 800 plus is exceptional credit. And when I'm going over this, I want you to put your scenario or whatever you want to take out of this presentation, notate that, grab a notepad and notate what it is that you like to gain from this presentation to help your personal situation. It could also help someone that you're mentoring. It can help your family, your friends. Take notes that you can take away from this presentation. So 800 plus is exceptional credit. 740 to 799 is very good credit. 670 to 739, according to Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, they say that's good credit. 580 to 699 is considered fair, and 580 or below is considered poor. So why is this important? It's very important, and that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to learn the makeup of your credit, why your credit is important, and I'll give you some quick tips on credit improvement. So let's go over our course and what we'll be going over today. So what are trade lines? Throughout the course, you'll learn what trade lines are. I'll also talk about why trade lines are important to your credit. I'll also go over the makeup of your credit and the trade line calculator, and I'll do a live tutorial on how you can calculate your specific situation and also help your family and friends or even your mentors. And then I will share towards the end of the presentation some important credit tips that can help better your situation or your friends and family. So, does anyone know what a trade line is? Type that in the chat box if you know what a trade line is. Let's see where our experts are in the audience. Let me know. Don't be shy. What is a trade line? Do I have a diverse crowd today, or I'm definitely going to be giving some great pointers? All right. It may be that you guys are just being shy or you really just don't know, because I don't see anyone typing back. All right, let's get into it. What is a trade line? A trade line is any account that appears on your credit report. There are different types of trade lines that appear on your credit report, and we're going to go over those really quickly. Mortgages. So your mortgage is considered a trade line. Auto loans, student loans, furniture loans, jewelry loans, and the ones that we'll be covering and focusing on throughout this presentation, most importantly, are revolving credit card accounts. These are the trade lines we'll be talking about and the importance. All right. Why are trade lines important to your credit? Trade lines are the makeup of a person's credit report. Trade lines assist with building the credit profile. How you positively maintain your trade line history, essentially, that's what builds your credit score. So that's why trade lines are so important. So before me telling you what trade lines were, if you didn't know what they were, that's why they're so important. And how you positively maintain your trade lines that you have on your credit report, essentially that's going to help you maintain good financial health and good credit. All right. So the makeup of your credit and the benefits of the trade line calculator. So I'm going to go over how you can track the different trade lines that you have on your credit report and how you can determine what your situation is to boost your score if you're struggling with low credit. All right. So according to Experian, payment history and utilization are the major components that make up your credit score. So 35% of your credit score is determined by your payment history. If you pay late, no good, because that is 35% of what makes up your credit score. All right. Amounts owed. 30% of the amounts of balances that you have owed on your credit determines your credit score. 15% goes towards your credit history. So maintaining positive credit history that affects your score and makes up 15% of your score. Credit mix and new credit, they share the same amount, 10%. So credit mix is just the overall categories of what makes up your score. So for example, the mortgage account, a jewelry account, your credit cards. So maintaining a good mix is always a good rule of thumb, because when creditors look to give you new credit, they're looking at the mix. And if you're using that responsibly, if you're not overcharging on your credit cards, if you're not over exalting yourself, that is what ultimately determines if a creditor is going to want to loan you money. All right. And then new credit. New credit is always good as long as you're strategic when you're taking out new credit. And I'll get more into that later on in the presentation. So I see a few things coming through the comment box. I can stop for a few moments and answer some of your questions.
Thank you, Sabena. One of the questions is a personal loan considered a trade line?
Yes, it is considered a trade line. Yes, a personal loan is considered a trade line. Are you getting a personal loan from a creditor that's reporting to the credit bureau?
No, they haven't typed it yet, but
we can go on to the next question.
Actually, the two questions were the same.
Okay, so yes, so the only difference with the personal loan, if you're taking out a personal loan, it could be a personal loan from someone or a company, a large company that is reporting to the credit bureau. If they're reporting any negative items, that would count against your credit score. So yes. All right, so let's move right along. So the utilization, the average age, the overall utilization ratio on all of your credit cards affects your credit score. So the amounts owed on your credit cards affect your credit score. The average age affects your credit score. So we'll get more in to affect your credit score in the next slide. So let's look at a case right. We have an individual, and I'm sharing their credit report right here with you. Well, it's not essentially their credit report, but their specific situation. They have 3 credit cards that appear on their credit report. We have a credit card with a balance of 0. They have a credit limit on that credit card of $5,000. This credit card has a balance of $9,000, and the limit is $10,000. This credit card has a balance of $2,800, and the limit is $7,500. So total, they have outstanding balances of $11,800. The limit total is $100. Why is this so important? Because if you can calculate your utilization on an individual case-by-case basis, as well as an overall picture, you can maneuver through your credit score in boosting it if you need to. So in this person's case, they have a balance of $11,800 divided by $22,500. That equals 0.52%. 0.52% times $100 equals 52% overall utilization. A good rule of thumb is you want to keep your utilization below 30%, because if you keep your utilization below 30%, again, remember in the previous slide, the lower your utilization, that makes up 30% of your credit score. So this person is utilizing 52% of their overall credit balances. That's terrible. They want to get that below 30%. So in this specific case, how would a trade line help in a case like this? Many of you may not know there are companies out there that sell authorized user trade lines to help you better your credit situation. So in this case, I'm going to share with you how an authorized user trade line would assist this person that is over-exalting themselves in credit card debt and making their credit score low because they're using too much of their credit. So if they're not able to pay off some of the credit card debt that they have to get their utilization below the 30%, here's a great option for them. They can get a higher credit limit on a trade line. They can purchase a trade line with a higher credit limit, and that will help lower the overall utilization that shows on their credit report. Let's take this, let's give an example. So let's say they purchased an authorized user trade line that had a $20,000 credit limit. Let's do the calculations again. The trade line that they purchased had a zero balance, no balance on it, right? So over here, it would stay $11,800, but now they're adding a $20,000 trade line to the limits that they have, because a trade line, what happens is it essentially reports to your credit report as if it was your credit. So we're adding that $20,000 limit trade line. So that brings up the limits to $42,500. So 11,800 divided by 42,500 equals 0.277. 0.277 times $100, so we can get that into percentage. You get 27%. Awesome. That's great. We're below that 30% threshold. You know what's going to happen the next time this person's credit profile reports to the credit bureau? Their score is going to increase because now their utilization is below 30%. What recommendation would I give to this individual? Get total balances down to 6,000. Not everyone has money like that laying around to pay their balances off. So the next best option would be to purchase a trade line. So if they're not able to get their balances down below that $6,000, down to $6,000, which would get them to that 26% threshold for their utilization, they can always purchase a trade line, right? All right, so we're moving along. So this is the slide where I may get some interaction. I may get some more questions from the audience. But this is a slide where I tell you to take your pen out because I'll be sharing some really great insight. All right. Did you know you shouldn't pay off your full credit card balances? You should just keep your balances below 30%. Did you know that? Did everyone know that you shouldn't be paying off your balances 100% every month? You should leave a balance on your credit card. Here's why. If you pay your balances off every month and you use them and you just let them be inactive, guess what? You don't need it. The credit card company is going to close that account. So it's either you use it or lose it. Use it to buy gas, buy a pack of gum, pay back the 25 cents or leave 5 cents on that account. You need to keep it active. So that way the creditors don't say, hey, Anna doesn't need this credit card. I'm just going to close it out. Crystal doesn't need this credit card. I'm going to close it out. She hasn't used it in 6 months. So use it or lose it. It's very important. You shouldn't pay it off as well, because then there's nothing for the creditor to report to the credit bureau. And again, algorithm of credit, you need things to be reported so that way your score could continue to stimulate, right? All right, so here's the next great point. You shouldn't close out any accounts, because kind of like what I just said, if you close out any accounts or the creditors close out your account, that affects and lowers your average age It also affects your credit mix, which negatively affects your credit score. If you're getting closed accounts, that utilization, the credit limits, you'll no longer have them. So what happens in that case? Let's say you're a person that uses your credit cards heavy and you maintain high utilization. If a $20,000 credit limit no longer exists, guess what just happened to your utilization? It skyrocketed because you no longer have that $20,000 credit limit that helped lower your utilization on all of your other accounts that are maxed out. So you never want to have closed accounts. So that's why it's so important to keep your credit card accounts active. All right. Did you know that you can borrow from your credit cards? Did you guys know that? You can borrow from your credit cards and pay off another credit card that's charging you a 30% interest rate and save $200 or more in interest on that card, and put that balance on another card that's charging you 0% interest for 18 months, and you're saving $200 for 18 months worth of interest. Doesn't that make sense to you? No, so it isn't a cash, well, you can call it a cash advance that a credit card company would give you. So technically what it is, let's say you have a Citibank account, a Citi, or a Bank of America credit card. You have a limit of $10,000. You've used $5,000, but Bank of America is charging you an enormous interest rate for borrowing that $5,000. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, 10%, right? $5,000, you're paying an additional 10% of interest every single month until you pay that balance down. You apply for another credit card and they give you a phenomenal promotion. The promotion is, if you take your $5,000 that Bank of America is charging you 10% to borrow, if you take that $5,000 and move it over to what other company? Chase, this Chase account, I'll let you move that balance over for free. Well, in some cases, they do charge you for a balance transfer, but it makes more sense to pay that small fee, which sometimes it's up to about $500, rather than paying $200 per month on Bank of America, in this case, in interest. $500, if you do $200 a month times 18 months, how much is that? Like $200 times 18 months, $3,600. I would rather pay $500 to do a balance transfer, right? So you move that balance over to, what card did we say, Citi? You pay them 0 interest for 18 months until you pay that card off. You borrowed for free, and now you owe Bank of America nothing. You don't have to pay them that interest, that ridiculous amount of interest anymore. So this is a resourceful tool that a lot of people, I don't think they're educated or knowledgeable on these type of resources that are provided. And you get these type of offers when you have great credit. So it's really something that you can take advantage of, right? Late payments drop your credit score anywhere from 25 to 50 points each time it reports to the credit bureau, each time you're late. That's why I was stressing the importance of making sure that you're paying your credit cards on time. Someone just asked a question, does that affect your credit? If you do a balance transfer, does that affect your credit? No, I believe that's what you're asking about. It does not affect your credit because guess why? You already have that, that offer. What does affect your credit is when you apply for the balance. If you're applying for that credit card account, you do get a ding, a hard ding on your credit report because you're getting a new trade line. So every time you apply for a new credit card account, any type of new loans that require a hard trade line, that does decrease your score anywhere from 5 to 10 points. And we'll go into that a little bit later as well on how you can be strategic when you're applying for new credit. All right. Did that answer your question? You can unmute if you'd like. You can talk to me. I don't bite. So hard inquiries, we kind of started talking about this. Hard inquiries, they typically fall off after about 2 years. So that's why I was saying being strategic when you're applying for new credit. So for example, let's say you have something coming up and you know you have 2 hard inquiries on your credit report. Plan it out. You know exactly when those hard inquiries are going to fall off your credit. And if you don't know when, you can go on Credit Karma and check. Credit Karma tracks when hard inquiries fall off of your credit. And let's say it's going to fall off in 2 months. Perfect opportunity for you to apply for new credit if you needed to apply for something like a balance transfer. Because here's what will happen. When that hard inquiry falls off, your score jumps anywhere from 5 to 10 points. So that's a perfect opportunity if you don't want your score to fall too much, because that one inquiry that fell off, you can go ahead and apply for a new account, and then it will just wash because another hard inquiry will come on, but essentially you just had one fall off. So it technically doesn't affect your score. It's just going to be an even wash, right? So that's what I'm saying by being strategic when you're applying for new credit. Does anyone know why the closing date on your credit card statement is important? Does anyone know why? No? Okay. So the closing date on the credit card statement, that is when the creditor reports all of your activity that you've done for that month to the credit bureau. Why is that date important? That date is important because let's say you had a rough month and you had several emergencies and you had to max your credit card out. You want to pay down that balance to the 30% that we spoke about, get it down to 30%. So that way, when the creditor reports to the credit bureau, you're not showing a 56% utilization rate, because what will happen in that case? Your score is going to drop. So if you get it back down to the 30%, you maintain great credit health, right? You don't look as if it's a risk. We have a comment or a question in the comment box. It says, for auto loans, do all of those inquiries the dealership, does that actually, when the dealership pulls your credit, does that actually count as one? I don't know about a dealership, but I can speak for mortgages. You have a 14-day window to shop for loans. During that 14-day window, the pulls, it does count as one for a mortgage. As far as a car loan for a dealership, I'm not sure, but I can get that answer for you and have Anna email it to you. All right. So like I said earlier during this presentation, there are companies out there selling authorized user trade lines to help individuals establish credit, reestablish credit, and build credit. On my website, feel free to go onto my website, iamsabena.com. I have some really resourceful tools on there, such as trade lines that you can purchase. There's also frequently asked questions about trade lines that you can use as a resource if you want to educate yourself more on such a resourceful tool that a lot of people don't know about. All right. So individuals purchase these trade lines to assist with building their credit profile. A lot of people don't know that even your kids, I have an 18-year-old son. I added him to one of my trade lines at the age of 13. Guess what happened when he turned 18? The kid had an 800 credit score because the credit bureau reported all of my history, all my great history that I've been building for over 20 odd years. They reported it to his credit profile. So he's pretty much piggybacking off of my credit. His credit score is better than mine. So a lot of people don't know how beneficial these type of resources are. It's very beneficial. I've had clients that they're going through the home buying process. I'm also a realtor. I work with people all the time that are in sticky situations where they can't afford their home mortgage because their credit score is so low, their interest rate is so high, so they have to resort to something. Tradeline is a perfect option for that because you get a quick boost, quick turnaround. So you're adding positive history to your credit, and what happens? You get a better interest rate so that now your mortgage is less. So it's a really great resource, right?
Sabena, we have another question. Loretta's asking, can you borrow against your own account and get a secured loan without interest rates?
It depends on, it just depends on what company you're borrowing from if they allow it. But I've heard of that. There are options like that.
Okay, thank you. And one more question, Sabena, this one is coming from me. And if we do purchase a trade line, right, how quickly does that reflect on your credit report?
So trade lines reflect fairly quickly. It just depends on when you purchase the trade line. Kind of like your closing date on the credit card statement, that's typically when the creditor reports to the credit bureau. So we know they're reporting at least once a month, right? So let's say you purchase the trade line on the 20th today, and the trade line that you purchase is reporting to the credit bureau on the 28th. You can see results within 8 days on that specific trade line. So it just kind of depends on where we're at in the month and when you purchase the trade line and when that trade line reports to the credit bureau. But on the site, on my website, iamsabena.com, if that's something that you're interested in, all of that information is highlighted for you as the purchaser to know when to expect that trade line to report to your credit report.
Thank you.
Great questions. These questions are awesome. So when you get added to the credit card as an authorized user, it does not show you on, it doesn't show on your credit report when you were added, because I know someone may ask that question. It doesn't show when you were added. Rather, the entire history of the account is reflected in your credit report. So in my son's case, he just turned 18. It looks as if he has 20 years of history. Does that come up as a red flag? No, the creditors, they don't care. They just want to see that you have history in order to lend to you, right? It does show that you are an authorized user on someone else's trade line, but that's why it's so important for you, if you're in a situation where you're trying to rebuild your credit, it's important for you after you've been added to an authorized user trade line to try to establish credit on your own. So if you purchased a Bank of America trade line to help boost your credit or establish credit, after about 2 months, reach out to Bank of America and apply for a credit card on your own. It doesn't matter how small, at least you're establishing credit, right? Because that's what you're trying to do. Another thing I wanted to point out, which I get this question quite frequently, do you have access to the trade line that you're purchasing? Access meaning, do you get the card in hand? Can you use it? No. You don't have access to the trade line. You just have access to the benefit of piggybacking off of the phenomenal history that that particular trade line supplier has maintained. So you can't use their credit card. You're just getting access to their great history reporting to your credit to help you establish credit, reestablish credit, or whatever your situation is, right? So just for all of you being here today, I wanted to offer a special promotion to each and every one of you, because I know how it is to be in a situation where your credit is not up to par, or it may be up to par, but you want to see better. I'm still in that situation. I've been aiming to get to an 850 credit score for a very long time, but life has been lifing, right? So I wanted to give everyone the opportunity that has taken the time out of their busy schedule and joined me here today to take advantage of a special promotion for all of our joiners and attendees here today. The promo code that you can use on my website, iamsabena.com, is WOT to save 20% off of your first trade line purchase. I hope that you found this presentation beneficial. I hope that you learned something here today from me that you can actually bring along and share with family, friends, whomever. And I'll go ahead and open the forum to take any questions that you guys may have, or we can just collaborate.
Sabena, in the beginning, there was a question regarding the loan. Is a loan considered a trade line? And your answer was yes, it was considered a trade line. But you mentioned depends on something in specific. I can't recall what it was, but there was a difference between two things that our alum wanted us to explain.
So a loan, it depends on the type of the loan and how it affects your credit. So I know like credit card accounts, they don't have a huge impact as like a revolving credit card account would have to your score if one of those accounts closed. So like a revolving credit card account would be considered like Bank of America, American Express, a credit card account. So that would be the difference. And also a car loan. That does affect your credit negatively if you pay late. So there are differences between different type of loans and trade lines, but specifically what we were talking about today are authorized user trade lines and primary trade lines. So credit card accounts and how those affect your credit.
Thank you, Sabena. There was also a question on, can you elaborate on the process of actually acquiring a trade line?
Most definitely. So I will go ahead and share my screen again. Let's see. And I'll jump on the website really quickly. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So I am Sabena.com. I have a really resourceful tool on, we kind of went over the trade line calculations and how you can determine what trade line will work for your situation. That tool is available on my website for free as well. I also have a hard copy that I can email out to whoever needs it. I'll actually send that to Anna and she can share that with anyone who needs to utilize it. To answer the question, how can you obtain a trade line on my website? You can also obtain trade lines there as well. Kind of like what I was talking about during the class with when Anna asked the question about when a trade line would report. So this specific trade line, it's a Venture One by Capital One. The cost of it is $349. It will report to your credit profile for 2 reporting cycles, essentially 2 months. And the credit limit that would show on your credit report is $15,000. Why is this number so important? Can anyone answer that question out loud for me here?
Sorry, not to cut you off or anything, but we can't see your screen. We can just see your video.
Oh, you can't see my screen. 1 second. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Jay, for saying that. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Let me reshare.
And Anna, thank you. And Renee, I know you have a question. Once we cover this piece here, then we can address your question.
It's not sharing the screen. 1 second. Let me exit the presentation and try to reshare. 1 second. Thank you guys so much for your patience.
No problem, Sabena. Take your time. This is all good stuff. Good information.
Okay, there we go. Can you guys see my screen now? All right, thank you. So let me go back. So the trade line calculator is here. I am Sabena.com. You can utilize this trade line calculator to calculate your situation. It can tell you your individual utilization. You just type your numbers in here based on what it says on your credit report, how long you've had that credit card, the credit card limit, and then at the end, it will give you your average utilization. I also have a hard copy of this that I'll share with Anna so she can email it to whoever needs it. You can download that to your computer and use it as you need, all right? This is a free tool and resource to you. And to answer the question, how do you go about obtaining a credit card, trade line? You can go onto my website, iamsabena.com, and choose whichever credit card or trade line that will complement your specific needs. You can select any one of them, but let's look at this one here. So JP Morgan Chase Visa credit. This is credit card trade line, right? So this credit limit is $6,000. I was asking, why do you think this is so important when you're looking to purchase a trade line? If someone can answer that for me really quick. Why is that limit important?
It can help to bring down your credit utilization when added to your overall balance.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, that's why it's important. I'm so happy that, this information is very important. It shows that you were listening. This is very important because your utilization, remember we talked about that. If you're struggling with utilization, you want to make sure you're getting a credit limit that is higher than what you currently have on your credit report to help lower that utilization. In turn, that boosts your score, right? And not only that, it's also adding positive history. In this case, the date that the credit card was open, this trade line was open, is 2017. That date is important because average age, 35% of your credit score is made up of the age of your accounts. So in this case, this account was open in 2017. So you'll be getting history all the way back from 2017 reported to your credit profile, right? So on the website, to answer Anna's question, the purchase by date is very important because you want to make sure you purchase by this date so that way it reports during this time frame. So if you're going to shop for a new apartment, right, and your credit score is not up to par and you need to see a boost before you apply for that apartment, take note of these dates to ensure that it's reporting when you need it to report to your credit report before you go and apply to the credit bureau. All right. Some also important facts to note is whenever you're making your purchase, you want to make sure all the information that you're entering in your order matches with whatever is outlined on the credit bureau. Because if it doesn't match, the trade line will not report to your credit profile. If you put the wrong date of birth, it's not going to report. You have to make sure your date of birth matches, your address, your social security, all of that information has to be accurate so that way the credit bureau reports to the accurate profile, okay? And then you just hit purchase and that's it. And it'll take you through the order process, ask you questions so that way it reports to the appropriate party. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you, Sabena. We have another question from Jackie, and it says, purchasing trade lines has always been a very questionable method to help your credit. How long are you guaranteeing the credit line to report? I'm sorry, I just lost it. To report to the consumer, and are you backing it up for a specific period of time?
Yes. So, great question. And I'm glad that you rose that question. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So in the user agreement, it does go over all of that information. We guarantee that the trade line will report within the 2 billing cycles or by the date promised, right? There are some trade lines that don't report within the reporting cycles, which on the website, it specifically tells you that. So for example, the one we were just looking at, JP Morgan Chase, for some reason, they don't do their jobs and they don't report when they say they're going to report. So we highlight that. So if you know you needed to report by a certain time, I would say stay away from these type of accounts. Bank of America, we guarantee. So let's go back to some of the Bank of America ones. Bank of America, when they say they're going to report, they report during that time frame. Notice that note isn't there that says this may take up to 2 billing cycles. So if you notice that you're looking at one of those trade lines and it says this may take up to 2 billing cycles, we're not guaranteeing that it's going to report by the date there that it says. But you asked another question. We do guarantee that it will report to the credit bureaus of up to 2 credit bureaus. We don't guarantee all 3, just because the credit bureaus, they lag when they report and one may not report. So we do guarantee up to 2 within the 2 billing cycles that the trade line is going to report to at least 2 of the credit bureaus. We also guarantee that when you make a purchase, you'll be added for 2 billing cycles. So the credit bureau will report those trade lines for 2 billing cycles. If you need the service for longer, you will receive an email with a discount code soliciting that you renew if you need the service longer. And it's just a matter of you renewing if you need that service for a longer period of time. Did that answer the question? Hopefully that answered the question. Any other questions for me? Some good stuff.
I have a question. So I was confused, and I've been confused about this question. When you have your balance date, right? So from the bank, let's say today is your payment day to pay with the bank, but your statement date is on the 25th. Can you use it within those 4 days? Between the initial days after you pay off some or most of the balance for your bank, and then pay off everything by the or enough by the 25th? You're muted.
Because your statement closing date is on the 25th, right?
Yes.
So yes, you can use the card as long as you pay it off before the statement closing date, because essentially what that closing date is, that's telling you when your credit card company is going to report to the credit bureau. So if you don't want the credit bureau to know that you have a huge balance on that account, you want to make sure you pay it down before the statement closing date. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay, I have a question. What is the difference between and I'm sorry, because I was looking it up at the same time, a rapid score, right? When somebody tells you they're going to rerun your score, rapid score versus a I guess credit score or your actual credit score?
So a rapid rescore is a terminology used when you're getting a mortgage. So what happens is, let's say you paid off an account, and when the mortgage company ran your credit report, that account was showing that you owed them $50,000, but you now have that account to 0. The mortgage company has a service where they can do a rapid rescore, where the credit bureau updates rapidly so that it reflects, so that they can offer you that loan. So the rapid rescore is just an update quicker, so you don't have to wait for the creditor to update on that deadline that they say when they're going to update. In your case, if you're getting a mortgage, you can't wait 30 days for them to update. So that's why it's called a rapid rescore.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any more questions? No?
I do really quickly. What's the lowest amount that you can acquire a trade line for, or that you've seen someone acquire a trade line at?
So right now, the most affordable trade line that I have on my website is for $50. And why? To add on to your question, to give some more insight on the cost of trade lines, the cost it's associated with the history that you're getting. So if you need a significant boost and a grandfathered history, you're going to be paying more for that trade line. So the $50 trade line that is being offered on my website, the reason why it's so affordable is because it's a fairly new trade line, and the credit line is also a small balance. So that specific trade line would be beneficial for someone that's just graduating high school, or for a young adult that has no credit and is trying to establish credit. So $50 on my website would be the least expensive trade line.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We still have a few minutes. So, right, Anna?
Yes, we do. There's actually another question. It says, will purchasing a trade line be an inquiry on your credit report?
No, not at all, because you're not pulling your credit from like a Bank of America or Chase for them to approve you for a credit card. You're just being added onto someone's existing credit and piggybacking off of their credit. That is a really, 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 really good question. So it won't be an inquiry.
There is another question from Asalas. It says, hi, some banks have limits on how many credit cards you can open for a certain period of time. For example, Chase with their 524 rule, usually being added as an authorized user in a credit card account can impact this limit. Would being added to one of these trade lines impact this limit? And Asalas,
I'm not
if
really
I said it
familiar.
incorrectly, you can chime in and ask the question.
So let me read that again. Open for a certain period of time, for example.
How y'all doing? Y'all burning stairs or something? Okay.
Can you reiterate that question for me?
Right.
Or
I guess
Nellis?
y'all gotta guard my class and my class. Keep me safe.
Queen B, I'm not sure if that's your name, but just go
Oh,
ahead
okay.
and mute
Thank
yourself, please. Thank you.
Okay, does it affect your score when adding someone as an authorized user to your account? No, it doesn't. Because remember, there's nothing being added to your credit card. The only way it will affect your credit is if you give that person that you're adding that credit card and they go max it. In the case of the trade lines that are being offered on my website, the authorized users, they don't have access to the account. They're only gaining access to the history that is being reported. That is the service that is being provided, not giving you a credit card. So to answer your question, it only affects your credit if whomever you're adding as an authorized user to your account has access to that account, and then they go max it and not pay that card back, or you don't pay it back, because essentially you're responsible to pay for the debt.
I have a question.
Welcome.
So, you were saying that when you purchase the trade lines to help you, so let's say you have like a credit score of 720 and your time frame for how long you've had the card and build up that credit score is like 2 years, and you purchase the credit line. Once the credit line comes in with probably like 20 like an extra 5 years of information, if you use that to build your credit or help you with it and it gets removed, does it tank your score, or it will just remain and keep going up from there?
Exactly. So it would be reported to your credit, essentially giving you the boost. And then after the 2 months reporting period, it's recommended that you start establishing credit on your own, continue establishing credit. When the trade line reports and it stopped reporting, it doesn't necessarily disappear. Over time, it does diminish your credit score because, like we said earlier, the utilization ratio is no longer there. So ideally, what you would want to do is try to apply for your own trade line that will duplicate the same impact that the trade line you purchase. So that way you keep that longevity going. You continue to establish your credit.
Okay, so initially, once it's starting to like come off your credit score, try to initiate your own form of credit, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Sabina, is there a time frame from like when you know that it's gonna like basically come off of your credit? Is there a time frame? Is it like a month after when you should start like looking for your own credit, or is there a time period of basically when you should get your own?
Great question. So remember that we looked on the website and we saw when the card is reporting. So during that time, we know that the service that you're purchasing, it reports for 2 reporting cycles. So essentially 2 months. So after the first month of that trade line reporting, you want to start putting yourself in the position to look out for credit cards so that you can start applying for credit cards. So as long as you have it reported for at least a month and it's been seasoned and we know that it was reported to your credit profile, I would then tell you to go ahead and start looking for your own credit cards. And remember, be strategic when you're applying for your own credit cards. You don't want to start applying for 15 million credit cards, because what will happen? Your score will drop because you have too many inquiries. So I would say 1 or 2, give it some time, and then start applying again. But by then, once your score reaches to a certain point, after you've added a trade line and your score is where it's at, your score is going to stay there. You just need to continue to maintain what's there. It's not like your score is going to drop once the trade line stops reporting. It's not going to drop. It's going to stay there. The only way it's going to drop is if you do a significant decline in what is currently on your profile. You start paying late, or you close one of your personal accounts, right?
Okay. And would you say that, like, let's say I get a trade line in like Chase, would you say when I'm applying for my card, it would be preferable to go with Chase as well?
Most definitely, because you've already established a relationship with Chase. So it would make more sense to apply for a trade line, a credit card account with Chase, because they have you in their system as having an authorized user trade line, right?
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm not sure if this can be answered here, or maybe it can be put into another webinar in the future. But I'm in the process of, I graduated back in 2016. So right now I'm in the process of trying to own a home and everything. So I'm right now though, in the next couple of years, hopefully I want to be able to purchase a home. But right now, in my opinion, my debt is kind of high. And as far as my credit card utilization, thankfully to you, I know, the importance of that. Would purchasing a trade line be smart now? Speaking of like once that trade line stops reporting and getting another credit card, knowing that it may put a hard inquiry on my credit report, would that be a smart decision?
It would definitely be a smart decision because you're thinking long-term, right? Long-term meaning you're shopping for a mortgage. If your credit is in a better position by purchasing a trade line, the interest rate that you would have gotten if you didn't purchase that trade line would have been higher. What does that mean? You're going to have to spend more money. So all of the debt you had, you can't even afford possibly to pay any of that money into the debt that you have to lowering that debt because you have a higher interest rate on your mortgage. Purchasing the trade line puts you in a better situation because now potentially you may qualify for a lower interest rate, right? So the lower interest rate will save you monthly on interest rate on what you would be spending out to borrow that money for the mortgage. So let's say you're saving $100 a month in interest. That $100 a month that you're saving can go in towards paying some of that debt that you said you have. So definitely utilize the service, use it to your advantage. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sabena, we've concluded our session. It's 1 o'clock. I want to thank you for your time and for your energy, also for bringing in such a great topic for us to learn from. If you liked what you heard from Sabena, please, and if you have any other questions come to mind, just go ahead and send me an email. You can also log on to her website and contact her directly as well, however you would like. We're here to serve. But you're also going to receive a post-event survey. Please take a moment to, just give us your feedback and let us know what you want to hear next. it's my job to go find what you want to hear next. So I'm excited to do that for you. Thank you guys again. And thank you for supporting Women of Tomorrow. Sabena, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thanks, Anna, for coordinating this.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.